Okay, so we've gotten a lot of feedback from listeners lately about the skilled trades,
Yeah,
and it seems like there's a growing interest in manufacturing specifically.
definitely. Yeah,
So we thought we'd dive into a career path that's often overlooked, but it's vital to, well, pretty much everything around us.
it really is. And it's a field with a lot more depth than people might realize.
Right. So today we're talking about what it really takes to be a surface grinding machine operator.
A career path that's, well, let's just say it's more intricate than just sanding down a piece of wood.
Exactly. And to guide us through this, we're turning to RoleCatcher's career guide on surface grinding machine operators.
They're known for their practical, no-nonsense approach to career advice.
Totally. So their guide is packed with insights. Now, for those who might not be familiar with surface grinding, imagine taking like super fine sandpaper to metal.
It's about precision.
Yes, you're not just smoothing it out, you're creating a flawlessly perfect surface, often with tolerances thinner than a human hair.
It's about way more than just smoothing things out.
Yeah.
We're talking about incredibly tight tolerances, often on parts where even the tiniest imperfection could spell disaster.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Think aerospace components, engine parts,
hmm
those kinds of high-stakes applications.
Right, where even the slightest flaw could have huge consequences.
Exactly.
And the guide really dives into that, the precision aspect. It talks about using abrasive wheels to achieve these super smooth finishes.
Different wheels for different purposes, too.
Right, and it emphasizes how it's not just about removing material, but about achieving a very specific outcome.
Exactly. It's about control and precision, understanding the material and the desired result.
They even get into like different types of grinders. They mention wash grinders.
Oh, yeah. Those are key for certain applications.
And I'll admit, that one threw me for a loop. What's the difference between a wash grinder and a standard grinding wheel?
Well, imagine you've sanded something down.
Okay, got it.
A wash grinder is like the polishing step after that.
Ah,
It uses a much gentler abrasive, almost like a polishing wheel, to create that final, super smooth, almost mirror-like surface.
so it's for parts that need to be extra precise.
Exactly. Minimizing friction is essential for things like, high-speed machinery or components that need to move with incredible accuracy.
That makes sense. So it's like, I don't know, if you're sanding a piece of wood to make it level, and then you use a really, really fine grit to make it perfectly smooth.
Precisely. And this actually highlights something crucial about this field. There's a surprising depth of knowledge involved.
You really have to know your stuff.
Exactly. You might not need to know every single type of grinder out there to get started, but it just shows you the level of detail and expertise that goes into creating these, really essential components.
It's a lot more than just pushing a button.
Exactly.
Now, I think when a lot of people hear factory work, they might picture, like a dark, gritty environment. Is that accurate? What does the guide say about the work environment for a surface grinding machine operator?
It's funny you should mention that
Yeah.
because the guide actually points out that the work environment can vary quite a bit.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you're right. Some operators do work in large factories,
Sure. Yeah.
but there are also clean, climate-controlled facilities out there. It
Interesting.
really depends on the specific industry and company.
So you could be working in a super high-tech, almost futuristic kind of setting.
Absolutely.
That's really interesting. And I imagine for someone who's, maybe a little hesitant about the traditional factory image, that's a huge plus.
Oh, for sure.
Knowing that there's that kind of variability.
Absolutely. And that's something to keep in mind when you're, actually looking for jobs.
Yeah. Do your research.
Exactly. Research is key. When you're exploring potential employers, look for those that align with your preferences, whether it's a strong emphasis on safety, a company that's on the cutting edge of technology,
Right.
or even a workplace that's known for good work-life balance. Those factors are out there if you know where to look.
It's not a one-size-fits-all kind of field.
Not at all.
Now, speaking of the future, is this, a career with staying power? What's the job outlook like for surface grinding machine operators these days?
Well, the guide paints a pretty optimistic picture overall.
Okay, good.
It highlights industries that are continuing to grow: automotive, aerospace, construction, all sectors that rely heavily on surface grinding.
That's reassuring to hear. But with all the talk about automation these days, especially in manufacturing, I'm curious, does the guide address that at all?
They do. They acknowledge that automation is a factor,
Okay.
just like it is in many skilled trades, really.
Right.
However, their point is that continuous learning is more important than ever.
Oh, interesting. So it's not necessarily about being replaced, but about adapting to the new technology.
Exactly. This is where those workshops and seminars they mentioned earlier become really valuable. Staying up to date on the latest advancements can really set you apart.
So it seems like the message is clear. No job is completely future-proof. But by being adaptable, by actively developing your skills, you can build a pretty solid career path.
Precisely. And let's not forget, there's a real sense of satisfaction that comes from working with your hands, taking raw materials and using your skills to transform them into these precise, essential components.
It's that sense of craftsmanship, of creating something tangible.
Exactly.
Now, let's get down to the nitty-gritty, the pros and cons. The guide lists quite a few. What are some that stand out to you?
Well, on the plus side, they mention good salary potential, which is always nice to hear.
Always a good perk.
And I think this goes back to something we talked about earlier, skilled trades being often overlooked. It means there can be less competition for those well-paying roles.
That's a good point. It's a good reminder that a 4-year degree isn't the only path to a good income. Sometimes those hands-on skills are where it's at.
Exactly. And, they also highlight the diverse range of industries you could work in.
Yeah, you could be crafting car parts one day, aerospace components the next. It's not a one-size-fits-all field.
Right. Now, of course, no job is perfect, right?
Right.
On the flip side, the guide is upfront about the repetitive nature of some of the tasks. It can be physically demanding at times, potentially noisy, and of course, safety is paramount when you're working with powerful machinery.
Right. You have to be incredibly vigilant.
Absolutely. And they also point out that depending on where you live, job prospects might be limited.
That makes sense. Manufacturing isn't exactly evenly distributed geographically.
Exactly. So depending on your location, you might need to be open to relocating to find those really good opportunities.
That's a good reality check. It's easy to get excited about a career path, but location and job availability are definitely important factors.
Absolutely. It's all about finding the right fit for your individual circumstances.
So we've covered the work environment, the job outlook, and some of the pros and cons. What about the actual skills and knowledge needed? What does it take to be a successful surface grinding machine operator?
Well, one of the first things the guide does is dispel a common myth. This isn't just about pushing buttons.
Oh, really? Tell me more.
You need to be able to interpret blueprints, grasp mechanical concepts, work with precision measuring tools, and you know what else?
What's that?
You need solid math skills.
Math skills for grinding metal.
Absolutely. Think about it. You're dealing with incredibly tight tolerances, making minute adjustments to achieve a specific result.
Okay. Yeah.
That often involves calculations, especially if you're dealing with fractions of an inch or even smaller measurements.
So you can't just eyeball it.
Not at all. Precision is key here.
That makes a lot of sense. There's a lot more problem solving involved than I think people might realize.
Exactly. You need to be able to troubleshoot issues, make adjustments based on the materials you're working with, and adapt to unexpected challenges. It's not just about following a set routine.
I love that we're kind of challenging these preconceived notions about skilled trades. There's a real art and science to it.
Absolutely. And speaking of challenging yourself, the guide emphasizes the importance of continuous learning as a core part of this career.
It's not just a one and done kind of thing.
Exactly. Technology is always evolving. New materials are being developed. Industry standards are being refined. So if you're someone who enjoys learning new things, who's always up for a challenge, that's a massive asset in this field.
It's like you're constantly sharpening your tools, both literally and figuratively.
Exactly.
And they mention like workshops, seminars, training programs. Are there any particular certifications or qualifications that are especially valuable in this field? Something that would make someone's resume really stand out?
That's a great question. While a high school diploma is often the baseline for those entry-level positions, having some additional certifications can definitely give you a leg up.
Okay, good to know.
The guide specifically mentions the National Tooling and Machining Association, or NTMA.
Okay.
They offer a range of credentials, from basic machine operation to more specialized areas like CNC programming.
CNC programming, that stands for computer numerical control, right? I've heard that term thrown around, but I'll admit I'm not entirely sure what it entails.
You're right, it stands for computer numerical control, and it's becoming increasingly common in manufacturing. Basically, CNC machines use computer programs to automate the machining process.
So instead of like manually controlling the machine's movements.
Exactly. You're essentially writing code that tells the machine exactly what to do, how deep to cut, what path to follow. It's incredibly precise.
Wow, that sounds really complex. It's like you're almost speaking a different language to these machines.
It is a specialized skill set, but it's also incredibly powerful. CNC machines can produce these incredibly complex parts with amazing accuracy, and they can do it much faster than traditional methods. Imagine like designing a 3D object on a computer and then having a machine carve it out of metal with this incredible precision. That's the power of CNC.
So having those CNC programming skills, that would be a significant advantage for someone looking to get into like the field of surface grinding machine operation.
Absolutely. It signals to potential employers that you're not intimidated by technology, you're adaptable, you're eager to learn new skills, and you're committed to staying on the cutting edge of the field.
It's like having a secret weapon in your back pocket, a skill that sets you apart from the competition.
Precisely. Now, shifting gears a bit, let's talk about actually landing that job. What advice does the guide offer for someone who's actively searching for surface grinding machine operator positions?
Yeah, let's get practical. Where do you even begin to look for these kinds of roles?
Well, the guide really emphasizes networking as being absolutely crucial.
Okay, networking. Got it.
Attending industry events, connecting with people on LinkedIn, even just reaching out directly to local machine shops or manufacturing companies, these are all great ways to get your foot in the door and start building those relationships.
It's all about making those connections, putting yourself out there, letting people know you're eager to learn and contribute.
Exactly. And when it comes to actually crafting your resume, they emphasize the importance of highlighting your relevant skills and experience,
Okay, makes sense.
even if it's not from the exact same field. So if you've worked with any type of machinery before, even if it wasn't a grinding machine specifically, make sure you showcase that experience.
So even if you're coming from a different background, there might be transferable skills that you can really leverage to your advantage.
Exactly. Like, have you worked in a fast-paced production environment before?
Oh, sure, that makes sense.
That kind of experience demonstrates your ability to work under pressure, to meet deadlines, to maintain that high level of accuracy, all of which are incredibly valuable in this line of work.
Right, those are essential skills in any manufacturing setting.
Exactly. And speaking of accuracy, the guide also stresses the importance of tailoring your resume to each specific job description.
And speaking of accuracy, the guide also stresses the importance of tailoring your resume to each specific job description.
Oh, absolutely.
It's not just a one-size-fits-all kind of thing.
No, you really want to highlight those key words and phrases that are specific to each job posting.
So it's like you're speaking the language of the job description, showing them that you've taken the time to understand their specific needs.
Precisely. And while we're on the topic of putting your best foot forward, don't underestimate the power of a well-crafted cover letter.
Cover letters. People still use those. I thought those were like going the way of the dinosaurs in this digital age.
You'd be surprised. A thoughtful cover letter can really make you stand out from the crowd.
Really?
Oh, yeah. It's your opportunity to make a personal connection, to show your enthusiasm for the role, and to explain why you're the perfect fit for that specific company. It's like adding a human touch to your application, in this sea of digital resumes.
It's your chance to show them you're not just sending out generic applications, that you've actually done your research, you're genuinely interested.
Exactly. And that level of initiative really speaks volumes. Now, assuming your stellar resume and cover letter have landed you an interview,
Okay.
let's talk about how to ace that all-important meeting.
It's showtime.
Exactly. The guide has a whole section on interview prep, which, let's face it, it's make or break time.
It's your moment to really sell yourself, let your passion shine through.
For sure.
So what kind of interview questions should candidates anticipate for like a surface grinding machine operator position?
Well, be ready to discuss your prior experience with machinery, obviously.
Right.
Your grasp of safety procedures,
Of course. Yeah.
and your ability to interpret, like blueprints, technical drawings, that sort of thing.
Okay. Makes sense.
They might also ask you to describe a time you had to troubleshoot a problem with a machine, or a time you had to work under pressure to meet a deadline.
So it's a good idea to have like a few concrete examples in mind that really showcase your skills, your problem-solving abilities.
Absolutely. Be prepared to back up those claims on your resume with real-world examples.
And don't be afraid to ask questions during the interview as well, right?
Oh, absolutely. That's key.
It shows you're engaged, you're curious.
It shows you're thinking critically about the role, how you would fit into the team.
It's not just a one-way street.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Remember, they're trying to decide if you're the right fit for them, but you should be doing the same.
Oh, that's such a good point.
Don't be afraid to ask about things like company culture, opportunities for professional development, or even The work-life balance.
It's easy to get caught up in like the pressure of the job search and forget that it's also about finding a company and a work environment that, really align with your values, your goals.
Exactly. Finding the right fit is about so much more than just the job description. It's about finding a place where you can thrive both professionally and personally.
This has been such an eye-opening conversation. I mean, the RoleCatcher Guide is clearly packed with valuable information for anyone who's considering, a career as a surface grinding machine operator.
It really is. They've done a fantastic job of presenting like a really realistic picture of this career path.
They don't shy away from the challenges, do they?
Not at all. They talk about the potential for, noise and dust, the repetitive nature of certain tasks, the constant need for vigilance and safety.
Right. It's not all sunshine and roses.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But they also highlight the incredible skill, precision, that behind-the-scenes artistry that's involved.
And I think it strikes a great balance,
Yeah.
between the honesty and the inspiration.
Oh, for sure.
It doesn't sugarcoat things, but it also leaves you feeling kind of excited about the possibilities.
And you know what else I appreciate about it?
What's that?
They go beyond just the basics. They provide links to external resources like professional organizations and industry publications that can really help you take that next step.
Oh, that's right. They mentioned the International Association of Machinists and Aerospace Workers, for example.
Exactly.
And connecting with those kinds of organizations, going to industry events, even just keeping up with, relevant companies and professionals on social media. Those are all great ways to kind of get a feel for the industry, learn about new technologies and trends, maybe even find mentors or future colleagues.
It's like taking your research to the next level. The guide gives you that solid foundation, and then it encourages you to go out there and, build on that knowledge, make those connections, really immerse yourself.
Become an active participant in your career journey, really.
Precisely.
And realizing that learning doesn't stop once you land that job, right?
Exactly. And I think that's a perfect note to end on. Whether you're considering a career as a surface grinding machine operator or really any other skilled trade, that continuous learning, that thirst for knowledge, it's absolutely essential. It's about becoming an active participant in your career journey, really.
Realizing that learning doesn't stop once you've, landed the job.
Precisely.
And I think that's a perfect note to end on. Whether you're considering a career as a surface grinding machine operator or really any other skilled trade, that continuous learning, that thirst for knowledge, it's absolutely essential.
It really is. It's what keeps you moving forward, keeps you engaged, keeps you valuable in a constantly evolving job market.
So to our listener, we hope this deep dive has given you a clearer understanding of what a career in surface grinding, really looks like.
It's a field with its challenges, for sure,
Mhm.
but also incredible rewards.
And remember, the RoleCatcher Guide is a fantastic starting point, but your journey doesn't end there.
Exactly.
Cool.
Take what you've learned, do your own research, talk to people in the field, and most importantly,
Yeah.
don't be afraid to roll up your sleeves and get some hands-on experience.
You never know where that curiosity and that willingness to learn might lead you. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the world of skilled trades.
Absolutely. And remember, the future belongs to those who are willing to learn, adapt, and of course, grind away at those goals.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep those wheels turning.